Good afternoon, Sambharam sir.
Good afternoon. Yeah.
Sir, please wait, sir.
Okay. Okay. Not a problem. Yeah.
Good afternoon, participants. Before going into session, so I will give a small intro about our expert today. Mr. S. Sanmugam. He has 23 years of experience spanning multiple roles in technical, functional aspects of product development, life cycle like healthcare, renewable energy, oil and gas, mining, have built data science platforms, mathematical models to compute system behavior in banking and finance, oil and gas, healthcare, transportation sectors. Is business analytics, big data, smart devices, 15 years of experience as an architect, team lead on big data analytics, industrial internet, IoT, smart device and control. He had built models for artificial neural networks and artificial intelligence, expertise in building machine learning models and artificial intelligence in medical image domain. He has an experience in IoT system development and hardware architecture, communication gateway. He have built cloud solution in Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Firebase, have managed projects for large organizations like Cognizant, Accenture. He had handled outside client liaison roles in USA, Singapore, Belgium as a functional consultant on data mining for big data application in smart system in manufacturing and logistic with emphasis on logistic regression, decision trees, association rule mining. He has an experience in executing large projects through a global delivery model with multiple technologies and multicultural teams spanning across geographies. Experience in leading discussion and program reviews with client, senior management, with directors and senior managers. Through extensive experience across software lifecycle, including business analysis, technology implementation, application support and maintenance, project and program management involving different technologies, have set up process and executed managed service programs. So he completed his bachelor's in production engineering from Government College of Technology, Coimbatore. His technical skills includes data science, machine learning, and also big data, IoT, mathematical modeling. Programming skills include C, C++, Java, Python, and R. He has an work experience with DSQ Software Limited, Accenture Services, Cognizant Technology Solution, Next Techno Solutions, and now presently at SMI Infotech. So he has a project cytogenetics analytics platform, tenure December 2018 through current, responsibility held, delivery head, vice president for ML and AI. So roles and responsibilities, he has played a different roles like product charter, stakeholder management, business scope, execution planning, use case management, quality management system, tracking and reporting, AI system architecture, ML training, data acquisition, data curation, model selection, training, hyper parameter tuning, selection of inference hardware, IoT architecture, deployment of inference solution, system performance tuning, and management. So organization domain, Sri Mohambiga Info Solutions located in India, US and UAE. So project Real AI, ML bar AI, based data driven sports management. So tenure from December 2019 through January 2021. Responsibility as a delivery head, vice president. Sir, I welcome you. Now session is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Vinod. So let me start. I have a presentation with me. So can you see my presentation? Hello?
No, sir, not it, sir.
Okay. Let 1 second. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. So good afternoon, friends. So today, we'll be going through a discussion about big data analytics, smart devices management and control. So basically, this session is going to be kind of an overview on what are the factors that are enabling the current big data revolution, the data science part of it, the analytics part of it, and like how the advances in hardware. Manufacturing and cost reductions and the kind of environment that is being the ecosystem of technologies that comes in together as an amalgamation to enable the functionalities that we are seeing today and currently which are on the anvil, like which will be rolled out as products in the near future, right? The objective, like I will go through this the entire thing in probably nine parts into it. So we'll be talking about smart devices and big data analytics. Then nowadays, like this industry 4.0, this is a buzzword that is being spoken across the board. So how smart device revolution is kind of enabling this industry 4.0 technologies over there. So we'll be talking about what are the key enablers, which is kind of helping us to do this, and what are the different technological shifts that is currently happening in the industry across the board. Let it be healthcare, mining, logistics, probably financial, fintech, and things like that. So the other part of it is how electrification of everything we're talking about, how big data is kind of analyze, helping us to kind of analyzing it, kind of coming up with making decisions and things like that. So how it is going to help. So other part of it is related to the long-term perspectives in terms of global warming. Probably this COP26, like this conference has kind of created a big triggered discussion across the globe regarding global warming and the adverse weather patterns that are happening. So how big data and analytics and smart devices are going to help manage this situation, how it's going to help in monitoring, how it's going to help in legislation, how it's going to help in implementation of policies over there. Then we'll be talking about the computational advances that is happening in the big data industry. Let it be the cloud, let it be the artificial intelligence algorithms coming up, like custom hardware that is for machine learning and AI. And we'll be talking about market changes, like what is driving the market, basically, like from the commercial point of view, how big data analytics and smart device management is going to kind of drive the market in the near future, right? The last point is going to be the in terms of international treaties and political changes. Like when we talk about this COP26, like the global agreement on reduction of CO2, probably next for 5, 10, 20 years over there. So how big data is going to help us in and smart devices is going to help us in monitoring the implementation of these policies over there, right? So again, I want this. So how like Vinod, how participants can ask questions? Like, are they going to raise up their hands, or how is it going to be there?
So they may ask in call message, or else they may
Okay.
ask as a question, or they may raise
Okay.
hands, sir.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. So big data, like this broadly, like what is data? Data has been, like, we are processing data for decades over there now. It is happening for as long as like the information technology revolution happened. Data is there, right? The transactions happen and there is analytics and things happening. So what is big data? Basically, like what characterizes big data from regular data is like the kind of volume we are talking about. So volume is like initially when there were like transactional data. Let us take a bank transaction or a stock market transaction. The volume of data generated is kind of compared to big data. This volume is low because it is all kind of generated transactionally. So when we talk about the volume of data that is coming on big data, it is in the terabytes. Like because this data is gathered through sensors put up in remote places, and the data is continuous. Like every millisecond or every probably second, like we'll be having gigabytes of data that is flowing into the system. And the data that is coming from variety of sources, like, right, it might be structured data, it might be structured in the sense it might be transactional data, semi-structured, it might be something to do with, like, we might get some satellite imagery is also data, right? Like we may get some ground penetrating radar data, right? Like from the geological sources we'll be having it. So these are all like, but it might be images, it might be like three-dimensional structural data, like geological data. The variety of data is completely like it's mind-boggling, the places that we gather data from. Third one is the velocity, at what speed the data is coming from, right? Because again, it is gathered through like globally across the board, like so the velocity is so huge. And the veracity of the data, probably veracity is like how much data that can be trusted, in the sense like how do you authenticate the data. Data comes from different sources, like identifying authenticating the data, kind of enabling the trust factor, then that is a big challenge here. And again, like when it comes to value, it like value in the sense like why would the organization spend billions of dollars in big data analytics if they don't derive value out of it? So the basic objective is like to derive business insights into it, like probably to optimize their supply chain, probably optimize their profitability, probably to optimize like the implementation of a certain policy or things like that. So like this is the value part of it. Then variability, like again across time, like the yes, events change, and the type of data that has to be collected also is going to change. It's not static. Like after this pandemic, like everybody is talking about the supply chain disruption, like probably like the spread of the kind of the pandemic and things like that. So in terms of planning, right, planning has become a big challenge, like in terms of healthcare systems, and in terms of probably every industry is getting impacted. So that the type of the data that is getting collected is kind of, it's huge, and there's a lot of disruption over there, right? uh, so like okay, when we talk about big data, like what are the key enabling technologies that we are talking about now? So one is like since the availability of like lower cost processing infrastructure, kind of the cloud, like we have the Google Cloud Platform, Amazon AWS, and Microsoft Azure, all those things, right? So the thing is, so like availability of processing infrastructure is very important aspect of it. And the second one from the hardware perspective is like availability of low cost microelectronic devices, like in terms of controllers, in terms of sensors, in terms of like availability of low energy devices, basically low cost and low energy devices. And like the industry has moved from 10 nanometer to 7 nanometer, 5 nanometer, right? The size of transistors shrink every probably like 18 months to 2 years every, according to Moore's law. So that is also helping us a lot. Then this IoT, this industry, the Internet of Things, the revolution, like now we have optimized communication stack. Now everything is going to be network, starting from a doorbell, starting from like a parking lot. So data is being gathered anywhere and everywhere. So to just to kind of optimize it, and kind of coming up with business insights. And then the availability of communication technologies. Once the data is gathered, how do we kind of bring the data together, and it has to be brought to one central place where data can be processed, right? So for that we have the 4G and 5G like networks over there. On top of it, like for LoRaWAN is like the long range radio. This is the technology that is in the 5-6 years it has gained a lot of prominence, where like sensor data like can be transmitted, like low bandwidth sensor data can be transmitted over a longer distance. So this has enabled the entire ecosystem kind of to bring the cost down, right? So the other part of the other enabling stuff is the standardization of communication protocols and networking. So now everything is based is IP packet based. Like there is no audio, there is no video. From when it comes to the communication network, everything is a standard IP packet. So like so the communication protocol is standardized. So that is also helping to drive the cost down. And one of the other major breakthroughs is the development of artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? Like when the data comes in, it is impossible for one human being or a team of people to look into the data, arrive at kind of an optimal solution, to arrive to look into the patterns, what is happening to. So like the development of artificial intelligence platforms like kind of helps us like take this large volume of data, kind of curate it, kind of train the data, like kind of come up with insights into it. And the industry like specialization in communication technologies as well is kind of helping us in enabling this big data thing. And one of the very recent thing that is happening the past like 2 to 3 years is like the satellite imagery revolution. So satellite images are huge data inputs for big data platforms and in terms of smart devices management. Like the cost of remote sensing satellites have come down probably 100-fold down, like probably in the last 10 years, right? Like even university students, like small businesses, like startups, like now they launch remote sensing satellites. Like they gather the data in terms of oceanography, forestry, probably smart cities, right? Like so these are all kind of these are all different sources of data, but again the kind of volume of data that is coming into the system is huge, right? So these are all kind of big data platforms, fresh like areas which big data algorithms can be applied on. And in terms of satellite imagery, like we now the resolutions have also improved, and we have multispectral images, like we have infrared, we have um, visible light, we have ultraviolet spectrography. So like all the scientific advances are helping us kind of bring in the large volume of data. And the other part is like there is a lot of now there is a lot of interest shown by the academia and industry in learning the new technologies in those fields, right? Like we could see like a lot of students coming to us asking for projects, like kind of internships in all these new technologies over there. So that is also kind of driving the learning interest among the new people who want to come into this industry. Okay, like the other different sources of data is now is like this is predominantly vibrational science. Like initially, like the sound vibrations, these are all domains where like gathering data was a bit difficult before. But when you look into the aerospace, let us take an aircraft, or when we take into a machinery, which is like kind of which has any prime mover attached to it, the industry is kind of very focused on doing a predictive maintenance and predictive failure mode analysis, right? So what happens is like they collect data, like, and they want to predict when the machine is going to fail, or when this particular structure might fail, right? Like it has a lot of implications in civil engineering. Like we collect a lot of data from these sensors over there, like these smart sensors, and this data is brought into the big data platform. And I want to just check, is there any questions or something like? There are no questions, right? Okay. Right. So this vibrational data is like this is one of the new sources of information. Previously, it is only like we might monitor temperature, humidity, and things like that. Again, like acoustics and vibration. This because the volume of data is so huge. So before big data and the smart sensors, we never had the technology to kind of process this information. Now it is possible, and with the kind of network bandwidth we have and the AI algorithms we have built, it is possible to kind of analyze the system performance, like analyze it might be, as I said before, it might be a machine, it might be a spacecraft, it might be an aircraft, or whatever is there. So now this is a huge source of information. This big data is playing a role. The other part of it is thermal imagery. Like now it is gaining a lot of traction. So because like thermal sensors have become, probably people would have seen the value of thermal imaging when this they were screening people for the fever and things like that in airports, right? Like so we got a huge amount of data, like where the presence of different thermal patterns in an individual, it might. Hello.
Please maximize the screen, sir.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So now is it fine, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So like the smart sensors are enabling us to kind of gather information like in remote corners. It might be an oil flow pipeline, it might be kind of a gas pipeline, or it might be like sensitive nuclear power plants, all those things over there. So like these information are gathered, and probably like they are fed into the big data analytics platform, and they are used for doing thermal stress analysis, failure mode analysis, and different comparison between operational parameters over there. So the other enabling technologies that we have is the availability of low-cost processing platform. So they have given this kind of a small hardware board, right? Like it is a small platform, but we can do machine learning training. We can feed a lot of data into the system, streaming data into the system for on-site or on-spot inference. Like so we can just like do analysis on acquired vibration, temperature, pressure, process flow, stress, strain, all those analysis can be done. So this is one of the key enabling technologies also that is happening now. One of the key impediments implementing the smart sensors is like because these sensors are deployed over a wide geographic area, right? So the thing is, what happens is like how do we power those devices? So even if it is powered through like kind of even a battery, the battery does not last for probably more than a couple of days or days, right? Like, but with the advancement in semiconductor technology, we have nanowatt microcontrollers. Like we have energy harvesting techniques. Like we use like a piezoelectricity. We use Peltier effect electricity, thermoelectric generators, and things like that. So this has helped us to kind of powering this remote sensor, like where they can just like the sensor is something like it will wake up when a threshold is reached, it will send the data, then it will like again go back to sleep mode, to deep sleep mode to reduce power consumptions, right? So like one of the key things is like availability of this nanowatt. Like when the microcontroller goes to sleep mode, it consumes only a few nanowatts of power. And other enabling technology is the legal framework for analytics, right? Legal framework for analytics, there are laws, like probably most countries have enacted their IT laws. They are kind of enabling this, how to make stuff like legally binding and viable. So that is also happening parallelly, like when we look at it all over this digital India and all those things, right? Like, so this is helping us in terms of framing the system altogether. Then again, the improvement in the security protocols. Initially, there used to be kind of data sent in plain text, and there is not much of say data security. But when every like platform that we built using like the smart sensor network, now it is kind of secured with SHA 256. Like there is a lot of different security protocol that is available. So like this is also helping the big growth of the big data platform. And the other, the most important part is the cost of communication. So like with all those 4G networks deployed across the board, and the fiber optic network connectivity like that spans across India now, the cost of communication has drastically come down. So that is also helping kind of reducing the cost of deployment of smart sensor networks across the board. So once the network, the data comes through the communication network, it becomes easy to gather the data and do the curation part of it, right? So till now, any questions? Okay. So like, okay, when we talk about big data, like what are the different components to it? Like from the technical point of view, the first part of it, big data analytics, we saw what are the characteristics of big data, the variety, velocity, values, variability, visualization, right? So the other one is like, how do we technically work on it? These are all kind of jargons, right? Variety, all those things. Like what kind of platforms do we use to kind of do the big data processing? One is like we have something called Hadoop, which is again an open source platform. Like we can deploy it in our own data center, or it can be deployed in the cloud as well. And we have something called MapReduce, where like how do we kind of like take a large chunk of data, just like process that information that is exactly required. Then we have RDBMS that is being deployed. This is basically for reporting. And we have technology, there is something called NoSQL databases, right? Like in terms of how do we query the data faster, rather than just like the regular RDBMS stuff, like it takes longer to process the queries. So how would to make it faster, we now use, there is the change in technology in terms of using NoSQL databases now. And from the technical point of view, like we have something called HDFS. This is like the Hadoop has a file system built into it, like called HDFS. And okay, like where are these technologies that is being deployed now? See, one is like it is provided as a service from the third-party providers over there. These technologies can be deployed probably if, in colleges, right? If they want to deploy big data platform for learning, they can do it in a private cloud. They can deploy it in their own data center, and it can be deployed in a public cloud provider. It can be deployed as a hybrid model where a part of the big data processing, the data that comes from the sensor network gets processed like locally in the private data center, and partially the data can be processed in the cloud. So now, like there are different classes of sophistication that we have in big data processing. We have something called infrastructure as processing, software as a service, and platform as a service models over there. So these are all things that are available. So if people who are interested, if they want to kind of create a big data platform or things like that, so these are all the areas to look for. How do we deploy? If you want to kind of engage students in big data, data science, analytics, and things like that. So these are all different technologies to look for. So like they can kind of deploy their infrastructure on their own in their premises, right? Okay, so this particular slide, like we are going to talk about machine learning and big data. So like, see what are the different phases of big data, like what happens with machine learning, what happens with big data, how these two entities are kind of combined together to provide real-time analytics, simulation, pattern recognition, and stuff like that. So like when it comes to big data, like so when data is acquired from smart sensors, right, like the data might not be kind of complete. So the complete in the sense it might not give a complete picture of what is happening inside a system. Like let us take like this weather prediction, right? So they have deployed data like the weather buoys, like they have satellite imagery, and they have deployed sensors in probably in places in forests over there. They are gathering wind speed, air quality, all those things are getting pulled in together in the big data platform, right? Like how do we know like what values are missing and what is an outlier? So this is one of the key challenges that we are working on now. So outlier is in the sense like data which might not be a representation of the entire system. Probably they might have, it might be due to kind of noise accumulated in the sensor. It might be due to probably like communication errors. It might be due to something which is not, does not represent the true state of the system, right? That is one of the key challenges the big data professionals really face. So there's an ongoing research on what best algorithms to use in order to identify these missing values and identify outliers over there. The third part of it is dimensionality reduction. So when data comes in, like it comes in like probably 500,000, it is just a huge analog information that is being digitized over there, so that the dimensions are huge, right? So how do we, in order to do some kind of inference, right, like what has to happen is we have to reduce the dimension to make sense of this data altogether. So we deploy a principle kind of an algorithm called principal component analysis. Is like so like the principal component analysis is something like we have one axis which is going to be the primary perception of the data, and everything revolves around it. So how do we kind of take in large volume of data, identify the principal component, and identify how everything changes based on whatever that value that comes in. I'm just giving a small example, right? When we do a stock market analysis or when we do econometric analysis over there, like how weather patterns impact like stock markets, probably like rainfall, probably like rainfall impacts agriculture, agriculture has an impact on the economy, the economy impacts us. So there is a huge chain of events that happen in this econometric predictions, right? So when there are a lot of entities involved in this particular analysis, then we do something called principal component analysis, like because data comes in, it becomes a complete madness, right? So the other part is extraction of groups. So like how do we kind of we have something called k nearest neighbors and things like that. Like how do we kind of group data together? How do we entities data together? So what is the objective of doing all those things? Finally, everything relies on the predictive analysis. People always want to know what is going to happen tomorrow, right? Like when we say weather prediction, we want to know how much is going to rain tomorrow, day after, so the government can plan it now, right? So like in terms of stock market, then demand and supply, right? Like they say like if there is a product development and they want to kind of do the profitability analysis, like they want any company who's investing in product development, they want to know what is going to be the revenue stream like 1 year, 2 year, 5 years down the line. So like this has a lot of implication on the way other technology, competing technologies are growing, and who are the players in the market and where the economy is going. So they want to know everything. What is, they want to just kind of make an objective prediction on what is going to happen in the future. So that is one of the basic drivers in it. And so how do we do it is like when we want to use machine learning as part of big data is like we have we take data and we kind of segregate, we do the curation part of it, like we remove the outliers over there, and we just kind of group the data, and we have something called training data and test data part of it. So like this is like we have bytes of data, and which this goes into the training model. Basically the machine learning model learns the patterns inside the data, right? Like when the data is kind of the patterns are learned, then this can be used for inference. If I say like if what okay, based on the last probably 10-20 years of stock market performance, they do the analytics part of it. If this is the current day situation, like what would be the kind of performance of a company probably 2, 3, 5 years down the line. So that is what the econometric analysis they want to do, right? So so we have neural networks, like probably neural networks now, it has gained a lot of interest in students now. Like neural network, we have convolution neural, recurrent neural networks, LSTM. These are all technologies that currently like students are very much interested in, right? So any questions till now? Okay, let me proceed. So again, this is just kind of the Metcalfe's law, right?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Can you
Please.
hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, so regarding that real-time systems, the algorithms which you mentioned, can you just explain that in the detail?
Okay.
Other than neural networks, there was few other algorithms, right, sir? That
Right.
I wanted.
Right. See, well, let us take this linear regression, right? Linear regression is like logistic regression, linear regression. These are other kind of techniques that is being used. So these are all mathematical techniques that you don't need a neural network to do it. It's all regularly applicable mathematical techniques. So what you do is you kind of gather different data points over there. So that these data points, right? Like I'm just giving one simple example, like rainfall. Like I'm just because like this is now of lot of interest. Rainfall, like it is what are the different parameters which might affect rainfall. One is your wind speed, the time of the year, your solar radiation. Then like there is a cyclic, right? Through something changes every year. Every year there is a cycle, but and there is something called mega cycle. There is like that these changes happen once in 10 years, and there are like even hyper mega cycles which will be like every 100 years there is a pattern that is being repeated, right? See, how do we gather data? Like so we have to do real time in the sense, right? Like see what happens, like see these are all being used in transportation, logistics, air traffic control, all those things. How do they predict it? They cannot just like rely on something which is probably 2 hours or 3 hours old. Like for example, in aviation, like we need weather prediction every half an hour or every 10 minutes or whatever the thing, right? So like we use a lot of techniques like regression, logistic regression. We like build models around it and things like that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So like talking about smart, so like the next part of it is like we're going to talk about the different domains where big data and smart sensors are being deployed now. Like they are just healthcare is one of the largest consumer of big data, because what happens is now like this cancer like the cytogenetics, right? Like genetic studies and things like that, like big data plays a huge role in terms of designing the treatment, in terms of the diagnostics and things like that. And again, since wearables now, like smartwatches, like which gather heartbeat, which gathers like the blood pressure, the heart, the beats per minute, the temperature, and all those things, right? And now it has become a huge market now, because everybody has a smartwatch now which gathers all this. So this information is just pooled into the cloud, See, where this analytics happens is like they want to kind of do the prediction in terms of healthcare index, right? Like because insurance companies and healthcare insurance companies are very much interested in, because they want to minimize their risk of loss, right? So they want to do the underwriting, they want to do the right kind of risk assessment. So like wearable devices become big important source of big data. Then we have public records in the sense it might be land records, which is transactional records which happened over the past day. The other one is like revenue prediction, right? Like probably the Ministry of Finance is interested in what would be the GST collections probably 2 years, like 6 months from now, 1 year from now, because they have to budget it accordingly. So there is a huge interest in big data analytics and on tax collection, right? Like this, there is a lot of data, like econometric data that flows into it, and we have the electronic health records, right? Because again, as I said, it is in healthcare. It is.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please. Yeah,
Sir, please maximize the screen.
Yeah, I
sir,
maximize.
again.
Sorry, because I went to the other screen and came back.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Right. Okay. So electronic health records, like again in research, right? Like because every possible hypothesis cannot be tested in real time. You cannot construct a physical model to do it. So in research, a lot of simulation happens, like that too in terms of finance and economics. Like we cannot conduct a social experiment just want to do the research, right? We have to rely on the past data. We have to build a model, and based on it, we have to predict it. And as I said, like again, smartphones, like these are one of the huge sources of data that is coming in. See, smartphones, like they help us in kind of traffic, like they gather a lot of data about the traffic, right? Like when you go to Google, like they have a big data platform, like they'll say, like they say 35 minutes to reach a destination. How do they arrive at the 35 minutes? It is like there is a model that is being run in real time, which kind of gives the traffic and the time of travel and things like that. So that is being used over there as well. And big data and machine learning is like one of the key aspects, as I said before. So now I think probably would have seen this kind of this is kind of revolutionary in terms of healthcare. Like this is the image I've shown on the right side is kind of from the fundus imaging. Fundus imaging is they take that image of your retina of your eye. See, the retina of your eye is kind of the kind of a dashboard for an individual's health, right? Like just looking into this particular thing, they can predict diabetes, and they can predict hypertension. They can predict a lot of commonly occurring diseases. So now it is gaining a lot of things. Even when somebody goes, it's like now it is slowly becoming like a stethoscope for the doctor. When you go to the doctor, they put the stethoscope, they get a lot of data in terms, because it gives the heartbeat, it gives the lungs, performance of the lungs, and what kind of sound patterns that is being generated, right? Like again, one such thing now is this fundus imaging. Like they just take the retina, the image of the retina, and they collect a lot of information on that over a period of time, right? Like when you go to doctor for checkup, they are going to take this one, and this is going to give you progression of health of the probably your the blood pressure, like all those things, right? So this is, I think this particular there was a presentation made by Sundar Pichai probably 2 years ago in one of the Google's product launch meet, Google's I/O Day or something like that. They conduct every year, right? So I have just taken it from there. So this particular thing is gaining popularity. So instead of kind of how do we make like predictive health, right? Like if somebody is going to suffer a disease like 2 years from now, how to manage it and how to kind of build a model around it. So big data analytics is playing a huge role in this, and is kind of getting popularity nowadays. Like it is getting adopted. Right, and again, the other thing is like there is a lot of discussion about smart grids, right? Like smart grids is like one of the major impediment now for adapting renewable energies. Our grids are not capable of absorbing the energy generated by the renewable energy sources, because the grid has to be modernized, and the grids have to become smart in order to kind of make use of the best possible renewable energy. It might be solar, wind, geothermal, whatever is there, right? So it is not optimized. So big data helps kind of what we do is we gather information from like state electricity boards, like the Electricity Exchange of India, and energy usage across the board. And we do a lot of analysis on like, okay, the prediction helps us, okay, when is going to be the energy is going to peak, right? When is there is going to be the energy is going to come down. So like how do we kind of maintain a reserve of, like, because all the power plants, right, like the quality of power that is being supplied has to be maintained, right? Big data analytics helps us to predict. They've taken a lot of data from in terms of from the generators of power to the consumer of power to the grid system, all those things over there. So this helps like kind of demand prediction, like avoiding system outage and kind of blackouts and stuff like that. So this is one of the major areas currently R&D is going on. So a lot of like companies are specializing in big data and smart grids, the energy sector, right? So like again, when it comes to analytics, like we have mining is like one of the major challenges is the mining safety. Like we see once in a while, we see the mine shaft collapses and there is human fatalities and things like that. So like the current trend is like implant a lot of sensors around the mine, like where the data is going to be distributed. So when there is any structural changes in that particular location, probably how we could make a predictive analysis on like the structural integrity and the structural failure of a mine, and how to kind of come up with a model which predicts the geology of the mine. So this is one one of the areas that is being currently worked upon, and they are using a lot of artificial intelligence and to model the behavior, because the data comes in from like probably for normally what happens is during like when they drill for oil or drill for minerals over there, these sensors are spread across a wide area, so they collect a lot of information in analyzing it, and they want to do to kind of in term, we have done a project for petroleum production prediction, right? Like based on soil drilling conditions, based on the geology information that is there, how do we know like what kind of yield is going to be for a petroleum well, right? Like so they, because normally the life of a petroleum well is like 5, 10, 20 years, right? Like how do we they want to know, the oil companies, like the oil exploration companies want to know whether this particular well is viable or not. So if at all it is viable, at what cost of oil it will be viable. So there is a lot of kind of econometrics, mineral, like geological and analysis that is going on with big data, right? So this is one area that's being applied. And we do stuff on oceanography. See, oceanography is like the ocean is kind of it has like 3/4 of the organisms compared to the land, right? So what happens is, what happens in how weather patterns are affecting. Now they say like the ocean temperature increasing, like we are talking about 1.2 to 1.3 degree Celsius rise in the ocean temperatures in the next 20 years over there. And there are a lot of discussion about predictions and weather patterns, right? Like how it is going to impact the overall weather system of this thing. And they have a set of foundation sensors. Now they are the government is kind of allocating a lot of funds to kind of gather information on the oceanographic front. Like this will be brought into the big data platform, and these sensors will be powered through solar, or it might be through kind of wind currents and something. They are doing a lot of research on this area. This is an active area of research. So oceanography is one of the key the data points over where it comes from, right? So from the perspective of the functional perspective, like there are 4 areas. One is like we say about description. The description is like what patterns, like what trends, what we want to do. Then prediction is like what do we want to predict, like is it the prediction is valuable, how kind of reliable is the prediction, right? Like when we do statistics, we have something called average and the standard deviation, right? Average says how the data points are together, and the standard deviation is going to what is the difference between each data point. The same thing happens here. So like we have when we say prediction, like how reliable is the prediction. The other one is deduction. There is a deduction is like okay, we have not seen the data point before, the kind of pattern emerging. So how do the systems automatically detect there is a new pattern that is being emerging? And the dynamic evaluation is like as and when like the data comes in over there, like how do we reliably see whether when the evaluation is made, whether it is true, or like the evaluation makes sense in the system perspective. So these are the important aspects to look from big data. Actually, big data, like when you look at the occupation itself, like we have the initial data engineer, right? Data engineer is the guy who looks into the data and he performs statistical analysis on the data. Then we have the data scientist. Data scientist is like he's a domain expert. He has both the domain expertise as well as understands the properties of the data. So he is going to come up with a plan, what important imperatives we have to look into the data and things like that. So these are the two different roles that normally the industry has. So as I said, this is kind of like the pictorial representation of, as I said before, it might be a factory, it might be an ocean floor, it might be a mine, whatever is there. There are a lot of sensors that are being deployed, and the deployed sensors are brought into, like, we have, even before it goes into deep learning and things like that, sometimes we do the mathematical modeling ourselves. Like we have MATLAB, we have specific modeling tools for different industries over there. We do the statistical modeling over there. And if at all, okay, like doing that is going to become cumbersome, like we rely on deep learning models where we artificially train the neural network to come up with a prediction, right? Okay, like again, from the industry perspective, this is a predictive and preventive maintenance. Predictive in the sense, like they want to know, like even before a component fails, it might be a large industrial mining machinery, it might be a probably a huge MRI machine in a healthcare facility, right? All mission critical system, might be a kind of a safety valve in a nuclear power plant, or it might be a cooling tower in a very critical systems over there, right? So how do we predict failures and how to prevent, like even before something happens, how do we do it? See, one is like we take data over a period of time, like all smart sensors might be vibration, temperature, pressure, whatever is there. So this, based on it, like we do the mathematical modeling of the system itself altogether, and we take into account all the past failures, like based on the data patterns, how the component has failed. Based on it, like we do predictive and preventive. We do predictive analytics where it helps them, the industry, the manufacturer, to kind of do a preventive maintenance on based on these routines that we have given, right? Okay, so basically what happens is like if we can kind of, if we know tomorrow a particular valve is going to fail, a particular motor is going to fail, a particular what do you call, a pipeline is going to fail, right? Like we can, if we can do that kind of prediction, it outright improves the productivity by 30%. This is industry general statistical data that we just get. See, because what happens is the downtime in terms of customer quality, in terms of disruption cost, downstreams, all those things, it helps us a lot to have a predictive maintenance system put in place. So like as I said before, we use vibration, thermal, and AI algorithms to do this. So like big data, again, we a lot of big data applications are currently happening in foundry industry, right? Like foundry industry, they collect data because the composition of minerals and how this composition of minerals is going to impact the performance of a particular structural element or particular commission components over there. So that is being also used. So again, as I said, like mining, this is again one area which is gaining a lot of traction now. Then again, the marine navigation, right? Marine navigation, that too. See, one of the, after this corona, this pandemic over, the entire supply chain got disrupted, right? Like because nobody could predict when this particular next shipment is going to arrive, because we have challenges in terms of shipping containers, we have challenges in terms of availability of ship berths, and challenges in terms of ongoing lockdowns. Probably you would have heard, like India, when it came out of the lockdown, now things are going normal. Now Europe, like you see a lot of every day you see the number of cases rising, right? Like, so this is a very challenging environment, and there is a lot of data that is feeding into it, and everybody is the business customers are nervous and they want to kind of have a predictive model, right? Like if I want to launch a product, when should I do it? If at all, if I have to kind of do the production planning, let us take large industrial companies, right? It might be a car manufacturer, it might be an aerospace industry, whatever is there. They have a lot of challenges in terms of predicting the supply chain, right? Because they have to gather a lot of data. Based on it, they have to do a lot of analytics, and they have to come up with a realistic planning of their production, right? So for big data is being used over there heavily. These are the different application areas. So any questions till now? So before big data, like these are all like probably mathematical techniques that is being used in electronics. Probably they have this Butterworth filter. So again, the same kind of filtering mechanisms, because like these are all digitized data that is coming from the sensors over there. We use filtering mechanisms just to probably we would have heard about Fourier transform and all those. So these are mathematical techniques that is being applied to the data that is coming into our system. So again, coming into the new trends is probably you would have heard about this industry 4.0, like which is kind of gathering a lot of momentum now. So every industry wants to move this 4.0 standard. So what are the different aspects of 4.0? Because again, it brings in more predictability into the system. Second one is like obviously improving the profitability, reducing cost, and kind of improving. Now they are talking about improving the customer experience rather than improving product quality is something, and improving the customer experience a different paradigm altogether, because the manufacturer might think like he has improved the quality, but the customer perception will be different. So how do we bridge the gap between the perception and reality? So like so there is a lot of data that is like they do a lot of surveys, and these surveys bring in a lot of data into it. We do big data analytics helps us in kind of modeling the customer behavior, probably the future behavior also. So like the other areas like is like nano machining, communication, and the vision inference system. These are all different sources of information for us as well. So again, now when you look at all those traffic, like in terms of attendance systems, also now they have moved to facial recognition, right? Like facial, the olden days of using ID cards and fingerprints are gone now. After this pandemic, even fingerprints are gone. So like it is all, so each and every aspect of it is going to bring in a lot of data into the system. So this kind of new changes in this big data paradigm help us to optimize efficiency. Again, like this is one of the areas where when we talk about integrated supply chains, integrated vertical integration, right? Like the one particular big unit is there, and there is one end when you feed the raw material, the other end is the finished product over there. So to minimize human interference, to optimize the flow of the products in the supply chain, like we use big data optimization techniques as well. So these are the projects currently we are working on. One is like big data and AI-based quality control in technical fabrics. Technical fabrics is like they use carbon fiber in aerospace. They use fabrics in mining. They use fabrics in structural elements, right? Like so, like to avoid erosion and things like that. This is one area that's currently we are working on, and we have a smart sensors based fulfillment system in warehousing. That is a project that is being worked on now. So what are the fields of research currently is like supply chain is one area. Like again, as I said before, there is a lot of interest that is being, because of a disrupted supply chain, they want to do some kind of bringing stability into the system, predictive modeling, and operations and management, market dynamics, risk management. All these like domains are being brought into fore. Okay, like so this is one area, like this big data prediction is like how like this ongoing lockdowns, the rotation of lockdowns across the globe has impacted the supply chain. Is one of the analytics, and there is a predictive model also built based on the data that is being collected. I've just given you a kind of a sample graph that has been generated. So like what are the different aspects of it, like different from the data perspective, what are the different activities that big data analyst performs? Collect data, curate in the sense like remove the outliers over there, kind of if at all there is a missing data point, try to predict the data point. Then the third part is analyze the data from a data agnostic version. Like then comes the role of a data scientist, where like he's going to build a predictive model, build a predictive mode analysis, then optimization, then comes the inference generation. Inference is like, okay, we have done the platform, we have done the optimization, everything. Like, what do you derive out about the business value that is coming out of it? And we do hypothetical planning. Hypothetical is something like which we don't have data, but when such data comes in, what we are going to do, right? Like, so these are all things over there. And one of the other services we offer is the advisory services, because large companies and governments, they want kind of advisory services in terms of policy planning and things like that. So we do provide such services as well. Big data helps us in kind of coming up with formulating data points or case instances where like it is going to help us in formulation of the policy. So again, I think like we have discussed all those things over there. And smart grids also I have discussed it. Machine learning, this is also done. And again, one of the important aspect is like now there is a grid level energy storage system that is coming into play. So this is one major disruptor in terms of technology, like with renewable energy coming in, and we have conventional energy sources, and again we have battery storage, grid level battery storage is coming in. So big data, like we collect a lot of information on the system, like as a grid, how is it going to perform, right? Like there is a lot of analysis involved. Big data helps us doing that. So like again, air pollution, like how do we tackle air pollution? Like how do we know the source of air pollution? What are the policy formulations? Like these we collect. Probably when you go to a city, there is something called AQ, air quality monitors, right? They would have put a display on one particular spot, there is an air quality, whatever is there. Right? How is going to impact the entire system as a whole? This data comes to a central location where there is going to be analytics performed on them. And electrification, yeah. Okay, any questions? Hello. Okay. So the other thing is like market analysis, big data, like market analysis prediction is like this is one. I'm just giving a case study. Like they have come up with what will be the electric vehicle adoption rate in the probably next. This is the past, right? Like what will be the adoption? Probably 5 years, 10 years from now. Like based on it, like they have to plan the manufacturing capacity, starting from a lithium mine till like it becomes a kind of a battery. Then we have to build an electric vehicle around it. And after it, like after once it is being used, how do we do the recycling? All those planning, right? Like the predictive analytics helps them to kind of come up with the capacity and stuff like that. So this is again a kind of a linear regression, like where so we do this kind of a we study in our engineering courses, right? Like when there is a set of data points given, how to draw a line, how to do when it is linearly predict what you want to do, when you want to do it in a logistic way or in a quadratic way, how do we do it? So these are different simple mathematical techniques that is being used now. So like so what are the different sectors that currently like account for this big data revenue? Like whatever that comes in, we have agriculture, transportation, electricity, industry. These are all the things, right? So I think that's it from my end. Again, when we talk about IoT, right? Like so this IoT ecosystem is getting matured now. So the government has also come up with a policy framework to enable this. So like a lot of you probably would have seen a lot of IoT startups now, like they are coming up in a big way. So in terms of smart mobility, like smart buildings, like energy management, distribution energy systems, optimized gas grids, and all those things, right? So these are all the enabling stuff and what happens in the industry now. So there is a lot of stats I have just given, like so what are the trend? So how big data is having impact on the one of the big areas of research now is the battery if to in order to electrify the entire transportation system, now the electric vehicles are expensive. Reason being because the cost of minerals being used in the battery is high, like lithium, it might be cobalt, it might be nickel, all those things. These are all like kind of little expensive materials, and they want to like this again the different compositions differences. So there is a lot of data that is coming out of different laboratories over there, and they want to kind of optimize what is the best possible mineral composition, best possible configuration for a battery, right? So these are all, we build a model or battery just to tackle this. So this is also being used now, like battery research is kind of is a hard thing that is happening in the industry as well. Probably everybody knows it. Okay, like so when we talk about big data, like machine learning, this is the general again, if you want to start a small machine learning kind of lab, these are all the different technologies we can use. We have pre-trained models, we have models over. So this is a little bit of a more in-depth into the machine learning stuff and thing like that. So we may not have the bandwidth to discuss the entire thing now, right? So that's it from my end. Any questions? Hello. Hello.
Participants, do you have any queries in the sense, please feel free to ask. Participants, do you have any queries in the sense you may post in the post it in the chat box, or else you may ask.
Okay, when I think like I'm done with it. Like if there are no questions, probably we can just close down the session, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you then. Thanks for the time.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Okay, thank you then. Yeah.
Ruchirka, sir. all the presentations will be shared by tomorrow. Again, all the participants are requested to join session by tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is the last day. Morning there will be 2 sessions, and in afternoon the session 3 will be considered as an online test. So the question will be shared through WhatsApp group. If there is any query, any feedback, just post it to our mail ID or through WhatsApp.